I want to set the table and talk about what's really going on a college campus. First of all, college professors are 5 times more likely to be atheists than the general public. Also, more than half of college professors have unfavorable feelings toward evangelical students. Only 6% of college professors think the Bible is the Word of God. 51% think it's just full of myths and fables. I got an email not long ago from a United States Marine. So I knew this man was no sissy, but he was not writing me as a tough guy. He was writing me as a distraught father. He said, my daughter was the top Christian student in her high school class. She helped lead the youth group at church, and she won several scholarships from Christian organizations to go off to college. She could take them to any college she wanted to, so she wanted to go to the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill to win the campus for Christ, and it needs to be one for Christ. So we sent her off there. He said about 4 weeks into her first semester, I got a phone call from her. Her words devastated me. She said, Dad, I don't believe in God anymore. Don't believe in God anymore? What? He said, I got in my car. I drove 4 hours from Hickory, North Carolina, all the way to Chapel Hill. I sat down with her, and I got nowhere with her. What do you mean you don't believe in God anymore? What happened? And she said, well, you know, I got this professor who went to an Ivy League school. So, of course, he must know the truth, right? If you go to an Ivy League school, they always tell you the truth. And he's teaching religion, and he's an atheist. And he says, we don't even know who wrote the Gospels, and the Bible has errors in it, so Dad, I'm an atheist now. Is this woman, this young lady, typical or atypical? She's actually typical, because 3 out of every 4 walk away from the church once they leave the home. Now, there's a number of reasons for this, but one of the reasons is intellectually they don't know why Christianity is true, because we've never told them why it's true. We've never given evidence, and when they run into this on a college campus, they don't know how to handle it. In fact, they'll run into professors like Daniel Dennett, who teaches at Tufts University. Here's what he says. He says, they will just see me as another liberal professor trying to cajole them out of some of their convictions, and they are dead right about that. That's what I am, and that's exactly what I'm trying to do. Richard Rorty said it well for professors. He said, we try to arrange things so that students who enter as bigoted, homophobic, religious fundamentalists will leave college with views more like our own. So we are going to go right on trying to discredit you in the eyes of your children, trying to strip your fundamentalist religious community of dignity, trying to make your views seem silly rather than discussable. In fact, that's how they do it. A lot of times they don't even look at the major issues in life, like does God exist? In fact, that's the most important question to anybody. Because if God exists, there's true meaning in life. If God doesn't exist, then do whatever you want. There's no ultimate meaning. You're just going to become worm food anyway. You know what they do? They mock the idea that God exists. They don't examine the evidence. They're not going to read a book by J. Warner Wallace or William Lane Craig, or they're not going to go back to Aquinas. They're not even going to look at the Bible. They're just going to mock it. And so kids can't handle that. This guy, Steven Weinberg, who won a Nobel Prize in Physics, he teaches at UT Austin, said this, I personally feel the teaching of modern science is corrosive of religious belief, and I'm all for that. If scientists can destroy the influence of religion on young people, then I think it may be the most important contribution we can make. Well, I thought the most important contribution a professor could make would be to teach students truth and how to think so they can go out and be good citizens. Now, according to Weinberg, is to get them out of the so-called religious movement, whatever that is, to make them irreligious. Well, Weinberg actually has it exactly wrong, because science, modern science points to a creator and to a designer rather than away. But he doesn't tell kids that. He spins the data for his own purposes, and that is to have a pulpit called the college lectern, which will teach kids that atheism is what they ought to believe. Christopher Hitchens, whom I've had the opportunity to debate a couple of times, tragically he died recently, put it this way. He said, I think religion should be treated with ridicule, hatred, and contempt, and I claim that right. Bart Ehrman, who teaches at UNC Chapel Hill, wrote a book a few years back called Misquoting Jesus, where he tries to get people to believe that you can't trust that we have an accurate copy of the New Testament documents. But Ehrman actually isn't really telling the truth, because he knows as well as everybody else, we do know what the original New Testament document says. But he tries to spin it on students so they come away doubting. He goes on to say this, there are few things more dangerous than inbred religious certainty. Well, you know what? Ehrman is certain about uncertainty, isn't he? He's skeptical about everything but skepticism. Also, this lady's Miriam Cook. She teaches at Duke University. She's a Muslim. Now, she doesn't look like a Muslim, but here's what she says. She's a Muslim feminist, actually. That's an oxymoron, right? Islamic feminists are declaring that, yes, Islam is the ideal just society. You hear that? Islam is the ideal just society. Islamic feminists confront any who threaten their Islamic or local community, whether they be organizations or individual men or Christian, Jewish, or secular women. Islam is the ideal just society? Has she ever been to Saudi Arabia? Has she ever been to Iran? What is she talking about? Now, who was Duke founded by? Does anyone know? Methodist. Yeah, the Methodists founded Duke. They have a Muslim feminist as a professor. Hello, McFly. What am I missing here? They're so far from the Methodist tradition that they have this going on. How about right here in Charlotte? This is James Tabor, teaches at UNCC. Here's what ABC News said about Tabor. James Tabor is the chairman of the Religious Studies Department, University of North Carolina at Charlotte. His book challenges many of the beliefs that Christians hold dear, maintaining that Jesus is neither the Son of God nor the son of Joseph, but most likely the child of a Roman soldier named Pantera. Does he have any evidence for this? No, there's no evidence for it. You know what his evidence is? If you read his book, he says, since we know miracles don't occur, the virgin conception can't be true. How do you know miracles don't occur? He doesn't. He just rules it out. He says, well, it's got to be somebody. Why don't we just say it's Pantera? And impregnated Jesus. Do the kids know any better? Look, when they go to college, are they going to believe their pastor or the professor who the parents are spending thousands of dollars to teach their kids? Who are they going to listen to? Probably going to listen to the professor, unless the kids go there equipped